Kobe Bufkin frequently showed his youth on the court in many ways as a freshman and struggled to get consistent time, but as a sophomore, he made significant improvements across the board, including physically, and eventually became Michigan's most impactful player and a legitimate first-round prospect. As a 6'5" combo guard with a 6'8" wingspan, Bufkin has one of the most well-rounded games in the draft, consistently making an impact on both ends of the floor, playing well on and off the ball, and making substantial improvements as an overall playmaker. He'll have questions to answer in the caliber of creator he can become and will need to keep developing physically, but he's already proven himself to be a great bet to contribute at the next level and in multiple ways. Bufkin has a pretty well-rounded offensive game, but one of the spots that he really shines is as a finisher. He shot over 71% at the bucket, a number that's on par or better than all of the elite college bigs you can think of. He's a pretty good athlete with a quick first step and very long strides as a driver. He's crafty and often uses different finishes around the rim, whether that be scoops or on different levels of the backboard. He is left-hand dominant, but had plenty of moments both driving right and finishing right in a few ways, and he showed that he could do it in an off and on-ball type of role, attacking off the catch and against shifted defenses, excelling on dribble handoffs and pin downs, especially on that right side of the floor, and then in semi-transition and some out of the pick and roll. Even while not being the most explosive or physical here, he consistently found a way to convert in less than ideal spacing, and while I'd be surprised if it continued to be this efficient, I do think he'll be effective here, and I like the number of ways he showed he could put pressure on a defense.
That's the risky run with the freshman guarding him on the perimeter. Bufkin, how about that?
Another over to Bufkin. Bufkin in the paint with the left hand.
Probably be important for him to play Jet because he's such a great defender.
They love Horton on defense.
1 minute to go. Bufkin again with the save.
Madison Square Garden, now Michigan here in Charlotte. Bufkin turns the corner, left hand is good.
Bufkin on the attack off
Terrace Reed Jr. was down there as well, and he has been so good for them recently.
For Terrace Reed, the freshman from St. Louis, quickly the other end. Michigan turns it into point.
Bufkin attacking. Bufkin.
I thought you liked, working with me because I'm good looking and it makes your shot look better.
Michigan on top 5-0 in the lane.
As for the rest of Bufkin's offensive game, he hasn't been elite in any one area just yet, but he's been solid to good in multiple and has the potential to continue growing quite a bit in the future, one of those being in the pick and roll. He shot 44% and averaged about 0.86 points per possession here, which is on par or better than most of the guards in the class, but he was able to get to the basket, hit pull-ups from the mid-range, and showed off a pace and craftiness here, especially down the stretch that was really impressive. Whether it was splitting, snaking, or just handling the hard hedge and making the proper play out of it, he showed some serious potential here as a scorer. And then he also had a lot of success attacking closeouts, often using pump fakes and getting to that 1 or 2 dribble pull-up in the mid-range, and I think that'll continue to be a big part of his game and that efficient style that he has naturally.
Dickinson on a handoff for Bufkin.
They have to go by him then.
Pull up pop. Yes.
Good decision.
And their on-ball defense has been really good.
Michigan does not have a fast break point. There's Bufkin.
Again, he missed him. 70 shoot. Bufkin got his man in the air. In and out. And
Against Marquette this year.
Nice little pump into the curl.
Howard coming across the timeline. The long three, no thinking about the 2 is Bufkin.
Still offensive possession.
Good shot fake by Bufkin. He
Been a good defensive player for much of Big Ten play. Moving his feet, stifling turn. Wall right there. Kobe, pull up, yes!
Their way in the right direction with the way they were playing. They weren't wins, but they were making their way in the right direction.
Reed trying to work for position down low against Jai. Hop step to the baseline.
3 to go. Bufkin fouled it.
And then as a playmaker, Kobe took major steps forward in his second year. Now he still has a lot of room to grow and we'll speak on those, but back to the pick and roll, he had some high level flashes there, reading the floor and finding the open man in multiple spots. Whether it was those live dribble skips or some of the manipulation to just his overall pace, he showed he was capable of taking on more of these responsibilities. And then he really shined as a team playmaker, making the extra pass and punishing those weak side rotations. Now it's not flashy and it can be easy to overlook, but when it's not there, we always notice. And in whatever role he take on, I think he's shown he's capable of making a play.
1 points in the first game against the Badgers in Madison.
To the starting lineup, give a little bit more juice on the offensive end.
Jack Howard.
Cross-court skip, 3 on the way. Extra pass finds Howard open for 3. They work it to the corner for Jeff Howard.
In the right side of the floor. Because of that, he can release the basketball out of the double team.
There's Bornheiser on the switch right there.
And it left Dickinson open for
Michigan. Would have been a backcourt violation.
Yeah, better job by McDaniel waiting on that one.
Dickinson powers in. Bufkin, he's been on a tear last 4 games. Drops it off.
And to finish up the offense, I really appreciated how well he played off the ball, and that's partially due to his improvement as a shooter, and I'm a buyer in that long term. Mechanically, he's got a repeatable motion. He shot 36% on catch and shoot threes, 85% from the line on the year, and he was at over 40% from 3 total in his last 28 games. I'm not saying he'll be a knockdown guy, but right above league average, 37% on decent volume is definitely attainable in the future, and this of course opened up some of the closeout attacks we showed earlier and make him a more well-rounded threat.
As he continues to deal with ankle injuries that has hampered him most of the
Still haven't had a whistle. Free-flowing ball. Bufkin.
Now to the defensive end, I was consistently impressed by what Bufkin did here and in multiple ways. Starting at the point of attack, he's a solid lateral mover, not elite at mirroring, but has the potential to defend both guard spots and maybe even a few threes depending on where he goes physically, and his hands always stood out in most games I watched. He came up with a ton of pokeaways and deflections on ball and turned those into easy opportunities, making some fellow draft prospects uncomfortable in the process. And I was also impressed by his ability to recover and stay in place to get some type of contest. He came up with a number of blocks this way, and even when he was beat or gave up a step for whatever reason, he usually made an effort to make it tougher on his matchup. Off the ball, he was very good rotationally, especially as the low man, coming up with a ton of weak side contests and a few blocks there as well. He played passing lanes, had steals, digging, and help, and was pretty consistently engaged. And he made significant progress in this aspect from last year, and to me was pretty clearly Michigan's best defender. We'll talk about some of the physical aspects and a few things that he can still get better at on this end, but I'd be surprised if he's not at least a positive defender at the next level, and he has the tools to even exceed some expectations here.
Half here in Bloomington. 29-25. Hoosiers knocking the ball away.
Impacted this game. A game-high 24 for Bacon.
Same possession, trying to confuse Rutgers.
And on the drive, rejected. Daniel, the inbounder. Bowie, rejected.
Ward into the hands of Watson. Crisp feed ahead. And Evans rejected over the game.
Bounces to Harris. Bufkin took it away.
shoemate off the good head fake. Kicks it back out.
Funk with the space.
You can really be tough defensively if you start in the right spot.
Coming off a 21-point game at 16 in the first half against Nebraska.
So again, respect to the young man for knowing what he wants to do.
I think they want to see him knock down a few more before they get more aggressive on ball.
The country has 9.3 turnovers a game. And here is a turnover.
Kobe Bufkin is really one of the most well-rounded prospects in this class and doesn't have too many areas that you say he's severely lacking in, which is part of his appeal, but there are still things he can get better at and things he'll need to do to maximize his game. And for him, that biggest improvement area is currently tied to the strength and weight or physical aspect. He weighed in at 187 pounds at the combine, which is actually a solid starting point, but improving here is going to significantly help him in a lot of ways. It's easy to make this sound like a snap of a finger process from this distance, but I do think he can improve here with his frame, and being in an NBA organization should fast track this. But on defense, being able to better handle contact and defend up some is important, and then the screen navigation was very clear and obviously impacted by his lack of physicality, and this is key for a point of attack defender, especially when that screener turns into Steven Adams or Brook Lopez or whoever. You don't want to be wiped out of plays easily in the pick and roll heavy NBA. And then offensively, just being able to stay on driving lanes easier, maintain balance at times, and just handle other NBA athletes when trying to create will be key to his success too.
Mitchell to him a little bit, all right, similar size, but it's all set up by his stroke because you got to crowd his space, and
Now that
Pickett hosting Bufkin. Size advantage. And so Lewis blocked by.
There are still some questions as to what level he can reach as an overall creator, and in him being able to take on more lead guard responsibilities at the next level. He's not the most creative ball handler or someone that likes to break you down. He's got a solid handle and showed he could take on some of this stuff, but being able to add counters and be a little bit more reactive and not content with the first move getting cut off, that's the next step for him fully realizing his upside offensively and handling higher volume creation responsibilities. Now, I do like how compact he keeps it. It bodes well to .5 basketball. He's had flashes and is still super young, and I generally like to bet on the guys who have the stride length and movement ability that Kobe does, but it's still a work in progress to get to that next level.
Running the point now. Driving. His run is short. And leading freshman score the Big Ten. 14 for a game. Bufkin.
And Love took advantage of it.
Bufkin. And the three will go. Or is 6-7. Bufkin. Got it.
From Bufkin. Bufkin. Oh, yeah.
5 now on the shot clock for Kobe Bufkin. Kobe takes the three.
They're used to shooting under 50%. As a matter of fact, they've only been under 50% once in the last 9 games.
10 to shoot.
Very well defended so far.
Bufkin. Spin. Fade. Gets the roll.
He gets a double team, and now Bufkin. Fade away with that left.
And then he still has some room to grow as a passer and decision maker overall. He kept the turnovers fairly low, but he'd still get out of control on jump passes or telegraph reads and force some shots with open teammates at times, and he could be a bit late on some of his deliveries. Now again, he's far from bad here, but that next step would be diversifying some of his passes and avoiding some of the easy mistakes that he made. He was new to initiating at this level, but there's still a lot of room to grow for sure.
4 on the shot clock.
Top, no, Barron sniffed it out.
Can't really get a clean catch lately in this game.
Bufkin tucked back. Defensive stands, yelling, trying to inspire his team.
I think Kobe Bufkin could land anywhere from the late lottery to somewhere in the 20s on draft night, and I'd be on the higher side of that. I think he has a chance to be a high-level starter in the NBA, someone that can play in multiple lineups, make an impact on both ends, and doesn't need high usage to be effective. Now, where he gets to will be contingent upon where he takes the creation and then the physical aspect, though I'm not too concerned about that long term. Team-wise, he's one of those players who would be great in a lot of spots, but I like Toronto at the end of the lottery. He fits a lot of what the Lakers like in their guards, especially as currently constructed, and then Miami feels like a perfect match in multiple ways. I like Derek White as a comparison as a combo guard that can defend, takes on a number of roles on offense, and is unselfish. Now, White has become an all-defense guy. That is tough to do, but I think the similarities are there. And I'd add Emmanuel Quickly as another guy he reminded me of for similar reasons. Probably not as explosive a scorer, but from frame to on and off ball stuff, the team defense is there too.
Games that they've led after the first. Quickly. Johnson going to use his height here on Quickly. Stripped and start.
45 to 28, Knicks, 9.5 to play in that half.
Kobe Bufkin is the type of player that simply helps you win games. He defends, he can play a few roles offensively, knock down a shot, make a play, and that's part of the reason he's appealing as a prospect. Now, there is something to be said about him not having an elite skill or area he can clearly hang his hat on just yet, but we're also not looking at any serious or debilitating weaknesses either. He'll need to work on his body and add to his bag offensively to reach those higher end creator outcomes, but he's got a long-time contributor written all over him, especially as someone who is the same age and younger than a lot of guys in this freshman class.